My mother held me down while my father arranged my marriage to an older, dangerous man, so I ran away and exposed them all. Now years later, she's sick and begging me to come back because I'm family. In my family, girls were married the moment they got their first period. It didn't matter if you were 12, 13, or 14. The blood meant you were ready for a husband at least 3 times your age. I grew up with that idea, so in my mind it didn't seem so bad until I turned 11, because that's when I saw my cousin Mayim get promised to a 43-year-old man just 3 days after her first period. His 2 previous wives had died before they turned 20. That was the first night I decided to stop eating enough food, not because I was fat or because I hated food, but because I noticed that the thinnest girls in my family were the last to get their periods, and I knew it was my only option. I later learned that your body actually needs enough fat to start puberty. The other girls called me a skeleton, but I didn't care. Others my age were already promised to men who had older children than they did. That didn't stop them from preparing me to be a wife. Every Friday from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m., they forced me to serve food to the men of the family for hours without speaking, and of course, if I made eye contact or noise while serving, I would receive 10 lashes. They forced me to hold hot pots without gloves to harden my hands for kitchen work, and every night my mother rubbed bleaching cream on my face to make me pretty, and out of a secret hunger, I was the perfect daughter. I acted without complaint and always talked about how excited I was to have children. But when I turned 14 and still hadn't gotten my period, I found something that changed everything. To give context, we were in the United States the whole time. My mother had convinced us all that this was normal and that any girl who didn't do this was destined to die alone, as well as being ugly and useless. Until a teacher forced me to meet with her because I accidentally wore a t-shirt to school, and she saw how thin I was. When she went to the bathroom, she forgot to lock her drawer. Inside were books on marriage laws, pamphlets with titles like Your Rights as a Teenager, and When Culture Becomes a Crime. Reading them, I was dumbfounded. It was the first time I was presented with the idea that marriage before 18 was wrong, with no cultural exceptions or parental consent loopholes. I stole the thinnest pamphlet, hiding it in my waistband. Over the next few weeks, when my parents thought I was asleep, I memorized every page. Child protection phone numbers, shelter addresses, the exact words that would trigger a mandatory report. I learned that teachers, counselors, and doctors were required by law to report abuse, so I started a wife skills group in my uncle's shed for 6 younger cousins who hadn't yet bled, all desperate to avoid their fate. I taught them what I learned, that teachers were mandatory reporters, how to say the words that would trigger an investigation. We practiced in whispers. I'm being forced into marriage. I'm only 13. Help me. At 15, my body betrayed me. The blood came during morning food preparation, staining my white dress. My mother's cry of joy made all the women in the house run over. They were radiant with happiness, kissing my cheeks, telling me I was lucky. By nightfall, my father had already chosen my husband, Amuda Bibi, a construction magnate who had buried 2 of his wives when they turned 23. Kidney failure, the death certificate said. The women whispered it was from too many pregnancies at such a young age. 2 days later, my cousin Anna, one of the girls from the shed, also got her period. Within hours, she was promised to a 51-year-old man who collected wives like trophies and had 8 children older than her. I watched the light go out of her eyes as they discussed the bride price, as if she were cattle. That night, I passed her my notebook with all the shelter numbers, legal facts, and escape routes I'd memorized. Tomorrow, I whispered, tell the science teacher. Use the exact words I taught you. Her hands trembled as she took it. What about you? She asked. My wedding is in 2 weeks. I'll think of something, I replied, my voice shaking. But I was wrong, because that night there was a knock at the door. It was Child Protective Services. My father's face went from confusion to fury when they asked for Anna, for underage brides, for forced marriages. They needed to talk to all the girls in the family under 18. As soon as they left, the family descended like wolves. In their eyes, someone had taught the girls lies. Someone had poisoned their innocent minds with Western propaganda. They searched the house for the culprit and found my diary hidden in the shed within an hour, full of numbers and legal articles. My father burned it in front of everyone, calling me sick, contaminated, and my favorite, a cancer that must be removed. The wedding is tomorrow, he announced. before she destroys anyone else. Dawn came too fast. In an hour, they would come to dress me in red and gold to hand me over to a man who had already buried 2 girls. My stomach churned as I heard footsteps approaching. I grabbed the plastic bag I'd hidden earlier with just the essentials: a change of clothes, the shelter addresses I'd memorized and rewritten, and the $80 I'd stolen from my mother's wallet, a few dollars at a time for months. The doorknob turned. I hunched over and groaned, faking stomach pain. My mother entered, already dressed for my wedding. "Get up," she ordered. "The doctor arrives in 30 minutes." I groaned louder, clutching my stomach. "Mom, something's wrong with my stomach." She frowned, approaching cautiously. "In our culture, a sick bride is a bad omen." "What did you eat?" "Nothing," I gasped, stumbling toward the door. "I need the bathroom now." She grabbed my arm. "You just went 20 minutes ago." "Please," I pleaded, letting the tears flow. Fear made it easy. "It hurts so much." She let go in disgust. 5 minutes. "The ants are waiting." I staggered down the hallway with the bag hidden under my nightgown. Once in the bathroom, I locked the door and climbed onto the toilet. The ceiling tile I had loosened weeks before gave way easily. I put the bag inside, then used the toilet to make noise. 3 minutes passed. I flushed, turned on the faucet, and moaned again. "Mom, I can't stop my stomach." Her fist hit the door. "Open up." "I can't," I cried, climbing back onto the toilet. The small window above had been painted shut for years, but I had worked on it with a butter knife stolen from the kitchen. "Just 1 more minute, please." More knocking, multiple voices now. My aunts had joined in. I pushed the frame. The paint cracked and cold air rushed in. The opening was small for ventilation, not for escape, but months of starvation had made me small enough. "She's taking too long," my father's voice roared. "Break down the door." I took the bag from the ceiling and pushed it out first, then hoisted myself up, my shoulders scraping the frame. The door vibrated as they hit it. My hips are stuck. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. I turned sideways, and just as the lock splintered, my legs went through. I fell 2 meters onto the wet grass, twisting my ankle, but it didn't break. Behind me, screams from the bathroom. I ran barefoot, my nightgown flapping, crossed the yard and entered the neighbors. Dogs barked, lights turned on. I kept running. The neighborhood was a maze of identical houses, all filled with families from my community. Anyone would turn me back without a second thought. I crossed the Hassan's yard, ran past the Mahmoud's pool, around the one shed. One roared behind me, then another. They had already mobilized. I crouched behind the Abdullah's trash cans just as headlights passed. My cousin Omar's voice cut through the air. "Check all the streets." "She can't be far." The main avenue was 3 blocks away. The bus stopped at 4. I had run the route 100 times in my mind, but never barefoot, never with my heart beating so hard. I crossed between houses, using parked cars for cover. My feet left bloody footprints on the pavement. A piece of glass embedded in my heel, but I couldn't stop. My cousin Kareem's voice came from the left. A car screeched around the corner. I leaped into Mrs. Chen's rose bushes, thorns tearing at my clothes and skin. She wasn't from the community, maybe she wouldn't recognize me. I crossed her yard toward the alley behind the bus stop. The morning bus appeared just as I got there. I burst out from between buildings, waving my arms desperately. The driver, an older woman, saw my bleeding feet and torn nightgown and held the door open. I climbed in and froze. In my panic, I had left the $80 in the bag. "Please," I whispered. "I just need to get downtown. I promise I'll pay you." An old woman got up and put the money right into the machine. "Sit down, daughter," she said softly. She didn't ask questions, just guided me to the seat next to her and gave me tissues. The bus pulled away just as Omar's car drove into the parking lot. I ducked below the window, but I saw his face contorted with rage. The woman next to me shifted, blocking the view. We rode in silence to downtown, where she gave me a $10 bill before getting off. "Whatever you're running from, don't go back." The courthouse was a huge building I'd only ever seen from the car window. I crossed the metal detectors, leaving bloody footprints on the marble. The courthouse secretary, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, looked at me and came out from behind her desk. "Do you need medical attention?" An emergency protection order. I barely managed to say it. I'm 15. They're forcing me to marry today. Please. She guided me to a chair, brought out the forms. Where are you going to stay? We need an address for the order. I recited the shelter address from memory, praying there would be space when I arrived. As I got there, my phone, forgotten in the bag, started ringing. Mom. Dad. Omar. Unknown numbers. Voicemails piled up without me listening. I knew what they would say: dishonor, shame, curse, cancer. The secretary helped me fill out the paperwork, her face darkening with each detail. Previous wives dead at 23, kidney failure from many pregnancies, forced wedding scheduled for today. Wait here, she said, disappearing into an office. She returned with a judge who read my petition right there in the lobby. Granted, he said. Emergency order effective immediately. The full hearing will be in 2 weeks. I clutched the paper like a lifeline and limped out. The shelter was 12 blocks away. I got to 3 before I remembered there might not be beds. Call confirmed it. We're full. We can put you on a waiting list for Thursday. 3 more days. I had nowhere to go. Then I remembered Ms. Rodriguez, my teacher, the one who showed me the pamphlets and forgot to lock the drawer that day. Maybe she didn't forget. 3 buses and 2 hours later, I was in front of Jefferson High School. It was Saturday. It should have been empty, but her car was in the parking lot. I remembered she came on weekends to grade. I found her in her classroom, a red pen in her hand, a stack of essays beside her. Seeing me, she dropped the pen, crossing the desk in seconds, looking at my bleeding feet, the torn nightgown, the protection order in my hand. Sit down. Don't move. She brought the first aid kit and started cleaning my feet. Only then did I start to truly cry. They were going to marry me today. His name is Amuda. He already buried 2 wives. I got the order, but the shelter is full, and they're looking for me. She took out her phone and dialed the child protection emergency line. But the voice on the other end was not encouraging. 15 years old. We need more evidence of immediate danger. A protection order based on statements isn't enough. Has she been physically harmed? Rodriguez's face darkened. She has glass in her feet, cuts from the escape. That's self-inflicted during the escape. It doesn't count. We need evidence of family abuse. My phone rang again. This time Emma Rodriguez answered. Hello. Her face paled. Mrs. Viti? No, your daughter isn't. I heard my father's voice on speakerphone. Calm, reasonable, the business voice he used to convince everyone he was a respectable man. She's sick. She has mental problems. She needs her medication. We are very worried. Rodriguez hung up. How did he know you were here? My phone. They must be tracking the location. Delete everything, she said. Factory reset it now. While I was erasing the phone, she made more calls. Supervisors, social workers, legal aid. They all said the same thing. Without immediate physical danger or better evidence, they couldn't act. Then we heard doors slamming in the parking lot. Rodriguez locked the classroom, lowered the blinds. Stay quiet. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Several male voices, Arabic and then English. We know she's here, my father shouted. Her phone shows this place. She's sick, she needs help. They knocked on the door, first gently, then harder. I'm calling 911, Ms. Rodriguez whispered, but I grabbed her hand. Wait. Let me try something first. I rolled up my sleeves, showing her the circular scars from the pot training, the bruises from that morning when my mother tried to force me into the wedding dress. Then I lifted my nightgown just enough to show the belt marks on my back, years of Friday service training. Her hands trembled as she took photos. Why didn't you show this before? I thought it was normal until I read your pamphlets. She called 911. There are several men trying to break into my classroom. I have a student in danger. Please hurry. The banging on the door intensified. Then my uncle's voice. We brought her medication. She's bipolar, schizophrenic. She makes up stories. Urgent, I told Ms. Rodriguez, check the parking lot cameras. I came alone. If they brought medication, they brought it with them. She called school security, quickly explaining. The guard, Williams, said he was checking the cameras. Sirens sounded. The knocking stopped. The footsteps moved away. When the police arrived, my father had already transformed. He was no longer the furious man, but a concerned father in an expensive suit, holding vials with my name on them. "Thank God you arrived," he said to the officers. "My daughter is very sick. She has delusions. She makes up terrible stories about our family." The officers separated us for questioning. One stayed with me in MS. Rodriguez. Others talked to my father and uncles in the hallway. "She has never taken medication," my teacher insisted. "I've known her for 2 years. Look at these injuries." The officer looked at my feet. The cuts and bruises could be self-inflicted if she was having an episode. "I checked when those prescriptions were filled," I said. "And if I'm so sick, why am I not in the system? No doctor, no therapy." Rodriguez took out her laptop. "I have essays she wrote, months of them. They subtly document everything. She saved them all. Every essay where I hid truths between the lines, describing cooking classes when I was really burning my hands, preparing for marriage when it meant beatings for making eye contact." The officer read them, his frown deepening. Meanwhile, Guard Williams arrived with the security video on his phone, which clearly showed my father and uncles arriving with the medicine vials already in hand. "Anna," I said suddenly. "Call Anna Mansour. She filed a report yesterday. She knows everything." "But when MS?" Rodriguez looked for Anna's family. She discovered they had moved that very morning, out of state, without leaving an address or phone number. My father must have noticed the situation was changing because his calm facade cracked. He started speaking fast in Arabic with my uncles, gesticulating furiously. "What is he saying?" the officer asked. "He's telling them to call the family lawyer," I translated. "And he's mentioning that the dowry is not refundable. That was his mistake talking about the dowry." The officer's expression hardened. "What dowry?" My father froze. I misspoke. My English. "Your English seemed fine 5 minutes ago," the officer noted. The next hour was a blur. More police arrived, a child protection supervisor, someone from the prosecutor's office. My father alternated between threats of lawsuits and pleas for family honor. My uncles invoked religious freedom and parental rights, but the evidence was piling up. The essays, the injuries, the fake prescriptions, the security video, the emergency protection order I had requested that morning. "She is a minor who has made credible reports of abuse and forced marriage," the supervisor declared. "We are placing her in emergency protective custody." My father exploded, trying to lunge at me, shouting in Arabic about dishonor and curses. 2 officers restrained him as he spat threats about what happens to girls who betray their family. Rodriguez held my hand as they took him away. The emergency coordinator arrived 20 minutes later, a tired-looking woman named Margaret who had clearly been called in on her weekend. Seeing my feet, she called for medical transport immediately. "We need to clean those cuts before they get infected." Rodriguez assured me she would accompany me to the hospital. The emergency room was chaos. Saturday afternoon meant sports injuries and accidents occupying all the beds. They saw me quickly, noting the glass in my heel and the cuts. Margaret was on the phone trying to find placement. "Yes, I understand you're full, but this is a forced marriage case." All the calls ended the same way. "No beds, no space for high-risk cultural cases." Rodriguez paced back and forth in the small cubicle. "There are no safe houses, women's shelters, all full," Margaret sighed. "Weekends are always difficult in cases like this," she lowered her voice. "Families often try to get the girls back. We need a secure place." The doctor came to remove the glass. He injected a local anesthetic and began the delicate work. I bit my lip, more out of fear than pain. Every minute without placement was one more minute for my family to find me. "Wait, MS," Rodriguez said suddenly. "I know someone. A retired nurse who worked with the district. She's done emergency placements before." "Is she certified?" Margaret asked. "Let me call." She went out and came back minutes later with a small smile. "Theodora Whitman. Certified with experience in cultural transition cases. She can take you tonight." I felt relief as Margaret filled out paperwork and the doctor finished bandaging my feet, prescribing antibiotics. As we were getting ready to leave, I received a text from an unknown number. "You have dishonored us all. This is not over." Margaret documented it immediately. "We'll have to change your number and be careful with social media. They could track you." The drive to Teodora's house took 40 minutes through unfamiliar neighborhoods, far from my community. Rodriguez followed us to make sure I was safe. The house was modest but well-maintained, with security cameras on every corner and a high fence. Teodora, a sturdy woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and soft hands, greeted me. She assessed my bandaged feet and exhausted face with a clinical eye. "Come in. Let's get you settled." Inside, it was warm and comfortable, nothing like the cold marble and gilded ornaments of my family's house. She showed me a small bedroom with a lock on the inside. "For your peace of mind," she said. "The windows have alarms and I have motion sensors. You are safe here." Margaret finished the paperwork while Ms. Rodriguez helped me unpack. Before leaving, my teacher gave me a card with her personal number. "Call me day or night." Update 1. That first night I slept little. Any car or shadow was potentially an uncle or cousin coming to take me back. Teodora found me by the window at 3 in the morning. "They came for the last girl too," she said, sitting next to me. "3 brothers and a father were here demanding I return their property. The police response time for this address is under 2 minutes. I made sure of that." Sunday passed with security planning. Teodora helped me set up a new phone. Only she, Margaret, and Ms. Rodriguez had the number. We went over scenarios, alternate routes, trusted neighbors in case of an emergency. "Tomorrow you have to enroll in a different school," she said. "Under protection, you can't go back to Jefferson." The idea of starting over terrified me, but hiding was more important than the familiar. On Monday, I tested the security for the first time. At 6 in the morning, the doorbell rang. The camera showed my aunt and 2 cousins with food and concerned expressions. "We know you're here," my aunt called out. "We just want to talk. Your grandmother is sick with worry." Teodora didn't even respond. She just called the police. "Yes, the people from the order are on my property, thank you." They left before the patrol car arrived, but before they did, my cousin held a sign up to the camera. "We love you. Come home." The manipulation had begun. That afternoon, Margaret called with news. "Your father hired a lawyer. They're alleging parental alienation and demanding your return. Can they succeed?" "They can try, but with the Order and Child Protective Services it's unlikely. Still be prepared to fight." On Tuesday, flowers arrived, a huge bouquet with a card. "Our hearts are broken. Forgive us. Mom." Teodora documented everything before throwing the flowers away. "Document every contact," I remembered. I started the new school on Wednesday under special circumstances and sealed records. The counselor, informed of my situation, assigned me a buddy and arranged for me to eat lunch in the library if necessary. "We've seen similar cases," she assured me. "Your safety is a priority." But safety seemed fragile when I saw a family car in the parking lot. Not my father, she was too smart for that, but my uncle's truck, parked where everyone was leaving. I called Teodora, who arrived in minutes. She parked in front of the truck and escorted me out, filming everything. "Let them see we're not afraid." On Thursday, legal correspondence arrived. My father was requesting my return, claiming I had been indoctrinated and was in danger of losing my cultural identity. Margaret connected me with a legal aid lawyer, Patricia, an expert in these cases. "Standard tactics," she said, reviewing the papers. "They'll argue religious freedom, parental rights, cultural preservation. We'll counter with child welfare, documented abuse, and your testimony. Do I have to see them in court? Not if I can help it, but prepare for that possibility." Friday began the true escalation. Teodora woke me early, her face serious. "Check your social media. Don't log in, just look on a different laptop." She showed me my father's public Facebook post, my picture alongside a plea. "Help us find our daughter. She is mentally ill and needs medication." They filled it with lies. "We fear for her safety." The comments came by the dozens. Family friends praying, community members sharing the post. Some offered a reward for information. "This is witness intimidation," Patricia said when I called her. "He's trying to control the narrative. We need to respond carefully." But the damage was already spreading. By the afternoon, the post had been shared hundreds of times, my photo circulating in community WhatsApp groups, warning about the sick girl who needs help. Then came the first real betrayal. One of the girls from my group, my cousin Marge, posted a video. She was sitting with her mother, reciting clearly rehearsed lines. She said terrible things about our family. She said our parents wanted to harm us. She scared us away from our own culture. "If you see her, help her come home." My heart broke seeing her vacant eyes, knowing the pressure she was under to record that video. Theodora hugged me as I cried. "They use everything you love against you. But that doesn't make what you did wrong." Update 2. Saturday brought an unexpected visitor. The door camera showed a young woman I didn't recognize, carrying an envelope. "I'm from a law firm. I have documents for the minor." Theodora was suspicious. "Leave them in the mailbox." But as the young woman turned, I saw her profile. It was my cousin Sarah, 3 years older, in a wig and office clothes. "Don't go out," Theodora warned, but I was already at the window. Sarah looked up. Our eyes met. I saw tears before she regained her composure. She left the envelope and walked away quickly. Inside were photos. My grandmother looking frail, my little sister on her birthday, my empty chair, my mother crying while cooking my favorite dish. Every image carefully chosen to provoke guilt. But the last photo chilled me to the bone. It was Anna, back from wherever they had hidden her, with an engagement ring. The vacant look behind her. Someone had written, "She came home. Now she is happy. You could be too." "They made her come back," I whispered. "They're going to marry her anyway." Patricia cursed when we called her. "That complicates things. If Anna withdraws her complaint." "She won't," I insisted. "Look at her eyes. She's terrified. Fear doesn't matter if she won't testify." On Sunday, the aggression was more direct. Theodora's neighbor called to say men were taking photos of the house from the sidewalk. The police came and they were already gone, but the message was clear. "We know where you are." "Maybe we should move you," Margaret suggested at an emergency meeting. But Theodora refused. "Fleeing shows them they win. We stay, we document, we fight." Monday was the permanent protection order hearing. Patricia prepared me well, but nothing could prepare me for walking into that courtroom. My entire extended family filled one side. Aunts, uncles, cousins, community leaders, all dressed in their best, all looking at me with pity and contempt. My parents in the front row, my mother dabbing her tears with a tissue. I sat next to Patricia, fighting not to tremble. My father's lawyer spoke first, painting a picture of a loving family torn apart by Western corruption. He presented witnesses, the imam, friends, even my pediatrician, who testified that he never observed signs of abuse because they never left me alone with him. "My mother always answered for me," I whispered to Patricia. When it was our turn, Patricia laid out the evidence meticulously. Photos of my injuries, essays documenting years of preparation for a forced marriage, the security video of my father arriving with fake prescriptions. Then she called Ms. Rodriguez to testify. My teacher spoke calmly, but I noticed her hands were trembling. "Did you ever report these concerns?" my father's lawyer asked. I tried to build trust first. I thought if she felt safe. "So you didn't report? You didn't comply with the reporting law." I reported when I had concrete evidence, after she supposedly influenced her with anti-cultural propaganda. Patricia objected, but the damage was done. They were trying to paint Ms. Rodriguez as the manipulator. When it was my turn to testify, Patricia had me focus on the facts. The burn scars, the beatings, the men my cousins had been promised to, the dead wives of Amuda Bibi. "These are serious accusations," the judge said. "Do you have proof of these deaths?" "The death certificates are public," Patricia replied. "Both died of kidney failure before they were 23. Both with multiple pregnancies." My father's lawyer stood up. "Kidney failure is a medical condition. Unless you are alleging that my client murdered these women?" "I am alleging a pattern," Patricia countered. "Young brides, many pregnancies, early deaths. and now they want to hand him another girl. Objection. The judge called for order, but I noticed the doubt on his face. Without Anna's testimony or concrete proof beyond my word, it was an uphill battle. It was then that the courtroom doors opened. A woman entered, followed by a social worker. She was young with a limp. "Your Honor," the social worker said, "this witness has relevant information." My father tensed. My mother gasped. "My name is Fatima Ababi. I was Amuda Bibi's first wife," the woman said in a low voice. "I didn't die." The courtroom erupted. My father's lawyer objected. The family murmured furiously. I was 15 when I married him. By 20, I had 4 children, and my kidneys were failing. My family told everyone I died, but a nurse helped me escape. I've been in hiding for 5 years. She looked directly at me. When I saw your posts, I knew I had to speak. I couldn't let him do the same to another girl. Her testimony was devastating. Forced pregnancies, beatings for not conceiving. Her family preferred to say she died than admit she ran away. She brought medical records, proof of injuries, documents of kidney damage, even photos of the fake grave they made for her. In the end, the judge was clear. The order would be permanent. My parents were to have no contact. Any violation would be a crime. My father stood up as we were leaving. "You are not my daughter," he said in Arabic. "You are dead to us." "Sit down, sir," the judge warned. But my mother also stood up and took off her veil. "We have no daughter. She died today." Leaving that courtroom was like walking through fire. Family members turned their backs on me. Some spat on the ground. Others muttered curses. But Fatima gently took my arm. "You are not alone. There are more of us than they want to admit." Outside, Teodora was waiting with the car. As I got in, I saw my family gathered on the courthouse steps, my father gesticulating furiously on the phone. "It's not over," Patricia warned. "They'll try other things. Stay alert." She was right. In a few days, the harassment evolved from being unable to contact me directly. They found other ways. My old, deactivated social media accounts were hacked and reactivated with posts about mental illness and calls for help. Photos of me were edited to look unstable and shared widely. Businesses where Teodora shopped started denying her service. "We don't want trouble. Your adopted daughter. Her family is powerful." Then came the lawyers, not criminal but civil. Lawsuits for defamation, emotional distress, alienation of affection. All unfounded but costly. "They're trying to financially ruin us to force us to give up," Patricia explained. "It's a common tactic." The worst came through other girls. Videos started circulating online of cousins and friends describing how I corrupted them with dangerous ideas. Each testimony was carefully crafted to paint me as a predator of children. "She told us our parents wanted to sell us," one cousin said on camera. "She made us fear our families." I recognized the script and the fear behind their eyes. Girls I tried to save now being used as weapons. Teodora increased security after finding footprints in the garden. The police couldn't prove anything, but we knew we were being watched. "Maybe you should consider the witness protection program," Margaret suggested. But I thought of Fatima hiding for 5 years, of the other girls trapped. Fleeing would be abandoning them. "No," I decided. "I'm staying. I'm fighting. I'm showing that it's possible." Update 3. The next challenge came from an unexpected source. A woman appeared at Teodora's door, claiming to be from a cultural mediation service, specialists in family reconciliation. "We could arrange a supervised meeting," she offered. Teodora closed the door but left a pamphlet behind on the tragedy of cultural disconnection and the importance of family unity. Similar attempts came. A therapist specializing in cultural reintegration, a religious leader offering to mediate, even a distant relative claiming my grandmother was dying and begging for one last visit. Everything was documented and rejected, but it wore us down. Then Patricia called with unexpected news. "Anna wants to see you." My heart fluttered, then sank. Is it a trap? I don't know. She contacted me through her own lawyer. Says she has information. The meeting was at Patricia's office with security. When Anna came in, I barely recognized her. Thinner, her eyes hollow, she looked broken. "They made me come back," she whispered when we were alone. They said they would hurt my little sister if I didn't. I'm so sorry. Listen, she interrupted, anxious. You have to know something. They're planning something. I heard my father talking. They've given up on getting you back, so. That's good, right? No. Now they want to make an example of you, to show what happens when you betray the family. What do you mean? I don't know exactly, but they mentioned your new school. Something to send a message that everyone will understand. My blood ran cold. When? Soon. Maybe this week. I don't know more. They don't trust me. Security escorted her away, but before she left, she passed me a paper with an address. Other girls, she murmured. Help them. That night we planned with Teodora. I would miss school for several days, change my routine, never be alone. But we underestimated their determination. On Wednesday, I was in the kitchen when the security alarm sounded, not the perimeter alarm, but the one from the sensor in my room. Lock yourself in the bathroom, Teodora ordered, already on the phone with 911. I ran, hearing glass break, male voices shouting in Arabic. Not my father or uncles. They wouldn't come themselves. These were distant relatives, community members willing to get their hands dirty. The bathroom had a solid wooden door and a good lock, but it wouldn't hold long. I heard them searching, calling my name, promising to just talk. The police are 3 minutes away. Teodora's voice came from outside. Hold on. The doorknob vibrated, then harder knocking. They had found the door. Come out, girl. Don't make it difficult. Your family misses you. I braced myself against the wall, looking for something to defend myself with. Only hairspray and scissors, little defense against grown men. The door frame splintered. One more hit and they would be in. Then sirens. Blessed sirens getting louder. The knocking stopped. Footsteps running, doors slamming. When the police entered, they were already gone, leaving only broken glass and muddy footprints. We have to move you today, Margaret said. This placement is no longer safe. As I packed, I thought of Anna's warning, the address she gave me, the girls still trapped, believing they had no choice. I want to do something first, I said to Teodora before I left. I need to make a call. I called him at Rodriguez. Remember the pamphlets? I think it's time to make more. A lot more. Because they could move me, threaten me, marry me, but they couldn't silence the knowledge I had spread. Every girl who learned her rights was a victory they couldn't reverse. The war for my freedom wasn't over, but as I left Teodora's house for another shelter, I carried with me something more powerful than fear. The certainty that I had already won the most important battle, prove it was possible to say no, to choose differently, to survive rejection, and to build a new life. And that message, that hope, would spread among other girls whether my family liked it or not. The new shelter was 40 miles away. A small apartment above the garage of a retired police officer. Margaret explained that he had previously housed girls on the run. The security was even higher. Sensors, cameras, panic buttons in every room. I spent the first night looking at the address Anna gave me. It was a house in a familiar neighborhood where another part of the community lived, more girls who needed to know their options. Rodriguez came in the morning with boxes of materials. We decided to create information packages, not just pamphlets, but guides hidden in school notebooks, phone numbers disguised as math problems, legal information as history homework. School nurses will distribute them, she explained. They are mandatory reporters and can identify at-risk cases. While we worked, Patricia called. The men who broke into Teodora's house were identified by fingerprints, distant cousins of your father. There are warrants for their arrest, but they've already fled the state. Your family also appealed the protection order, alleging religious discrimination. The packages took 3 days to prepare, each with a hidden pocket containing emergency numbers, legal information, and step-by-step escape plans. We made 50, knowing many would be thrown away, but if just one reached someone who needed it, it was worth it. On Thursday, a social worker arrived with a teenager, her eyes wide and scared. She was from another family, but her story was familiar. Promised to a 47-year-old man, her period had come last week. I found your notebook, she whispered. It was in my cousin's room. The one with the math problems that are phone numbers. My heart soared. The information was already circulating beyond my reach. Margaret got her emergency placement, and as she explained what would happen, the fear in her eyes gave way to determination as she learned she had options. That night, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something compelled me to. "Don't hang up," a young voice said. "I'm calling from a friend's phone. There are 6 of us. We found your information. We need help." I took notes on everything she said. 6 girls aged 12 to 16, 3 already promised to older men. They met in secret, sharing the notebook pages. "We can go to teachers, counselors. We've tried, but our parents are watching us more closely since what you did. Everyone is scared." I gave her exact phrases, names of teachers at different schools, emergency numbers. I told her about the courtroom cameras, how to request orders. "And if we get caught? Then you try again. And again. Until you are free." On Friday, Patricia called, worried. "Your father's lawyer filed an emergency motion. They're alleging that you are recruiting minors. They want criminal charges for teaching them their rights. They're calling it corruption of minors, parental interference. It won't stand, but they're trying to scare you." But I wasn't going to be silenced anymore. That afternoon, I met with a journalist friend of Ms. Rodriguez who specialized in human rights. She agreed to write about the underground network of girls sharing information, protecting identities. "People need to know this is happening here." The article wouldn't come out for weeks, but just knowing it would exist was a victory. On Saturday, a package arrived with no return address, sealed from another state. Inside were photos and a letter in shaky handwriting. The photos showed a young woman in a nursing uniform at her graduation. The letter was from Fatima. "I want you to see what is possible. 5 years in hiding, but you build a life. I am a nurse. I found love with someone who values who I am beyond being someone's property. Be strong." I cried seeing those photos. It was proof that surviving could mean more than just surviving. Sunday was quiet, but I knew it was the calm before something. My family wouldn't accept this level of defiance without one last move. It came on Monday, not with violence but something worse for them. A formal announcement in the community bulletin. I had been officially disowned not just by my parents, but by the entire extended family. My name was erased from the family tree, photos removed from houses. Anyone who spoke to me would suffer the same fate. In their world it was worse than death. It was total erasure. But reading it I felt relief. They had played their last card and I was still standing. On Tuesday I received a flood of messages, girls who were watching and waiting. They saw that the worst punishment didn't destroy me. 3 more emergency orders were requested that day. 2 girls arrived at shelters. One was caught but had alerted her teachers before being moved. On Wednesday, I met with leaders of organizations that had contacted us. They wanted to formalize the network, create a system of legal support in safe houses for these cases. "We'll call it the Freedom Network," one said. "Hidden in plain sight like your notebooks." Thursday was my hearing to renew the protection order. The courtroom was full, not of my family, they were no longer fighting, but of girls and women who had escaped, social workers, teachers. My father's lawyer made one last attempt, alleging that the disowning proved there was no longer any danger. The judge dismissed it immediately. "Disowning doesn't erase threats or crimes," he stated. "The order stands." As I left, Fatima was waiting outside. She had driven 3 hours to be there, to show me I wasn't alone. No words were needed. We just hugged as photographers captured the moment. 2 girls who refused to disappear. On Friday, the Freedom Network had its first official meeting. 15 volunteers, including Ms. Rodriguez and Teodora. We planned distribution routes, safe house locations, response protocols. What started with stolen pamphlets was becoming real. That night my phone rang. Another unknown number. Another girl, her voice trembling with fear and hope. "I found your notebook. Can you help me?" "Yes," I replied, grabbing a pen. "Tell me everything." As she spoke, I thought of all the girls still trapped, believing they had no choice. The network would grow, the information would expand. Some would escape, others wouldn't, but every girl who learned her rights was a victory. My family erased me, but I became something they can't erase. Proof that their daughters can choose differently. That knowledge will spread in whispers, in hidden notebooks, in brave girls risking everything for freedom. The war isn't over. It may never end. But as I gave another scared girl the words that could save her life, I knew we had already won the most important battle. Leto proved that it was possible to say no.